Hey, welcome back to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Arif Halaby along with Jeff Gerard, talking about your family's finances. Of course, getting out of debt, managing money, planning for the future. What does it take for you to plan for your family's financial life? Well, it's going to be built around a few things. One of those is specifically understanding what you have or don't have when it comes to your guaranteed income, when it comes to your guaranteed source of retirement. What about pensions, right? Pensions are supposed to be there for you. That used to be a kind of a no-brainer, almost a, well, you know what, that as well as the sun is going to come up tomorrow and the Social Security will be there. Well, a lot of these preconceived notions about what you think matters and what you think exists and may not really be there for you. In fact, what a lot of people are saying these days is that pension accounts are changing significantly. We've only been preaching about this for, at least 10 or 15 years when it's come down to the way the numbers work. You got to think of it this way. When it comes to math, 1 + 1 is 2. Whether you feel like it's 3, you've heard me say this before, whether you really want it to be 8, 1 + 1 is 2. And Arif Halaby here along with Jeff Gerard. Your pension, is it safe? Is it protected? Is it guaranteed? Well, chances are your pension account, whatever they promised you, whatever you expect, it's going to be there on some level, but it will not, especially if you're under the age of 60 today. It will not be there. It cannot be there for the rest of your life, provided that you live till age 85, 90, 95 years old. It can't be there the same way that you thought it was going to be there, that they promised. Oh, yeah, but you don't understand. I'm with the government. I'm with the pension department. I understand these. Arif, I am with the Teamsters. Well, hey, I'm glad you brought that up.
Imagine that.
Teamsters, right out of October 7th, written in numerous publications. I think CNBC has it. A prominent Teamsters pension fund, one of the largest, has filed for reorganization, bankruptcy. Same thing like a bankruptcy. In other words, they go in and they say, hey, we're making some changes.
Is that like laid off versus fired?
Yeah, I wasn't fired. I was laid off.
Yeah, they're going to call me.
Yeah, any minute now.
Yeah.
Filed for reorganization under the new federal law, under a new federal law that has sent letters to more than 400,000 members and told them that their pension benefits must be cut. Okay, follow me for just a second. We've been warning about this because a lot of people think that the money that they are expected to receive because it was negotiated, because they were nice people, because they signed a deal, because they gave up a vacation day, all of those things are great, and probably the people that negotiated it and gave it to you, if you will, through the negotiation process, did so honorably. I'm not even going to question that. But statistically speaking, a lot of those people were giving away money they had no right to give away. They didn't have any math that was done that substantiated that they could do this for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And that a lot of the fat cats, if you will, of the leadership of unions and organizations and management, they're fine. They're going to take their dollars. They're moving on their way. They took their buyouts, et cetera, et cetera. Any reorganization of the decades-old Central States Pension Fund is going to take months and would probably be a brutal battle as workers and retirees, union leaders and employers all seek to protect their own personal interests. It's a multi-employer plan. That means it's more than just one company. It is multiple companies. And ready for the bad news? Are you ready? It has caused problems for years, and if it doesn't come to a conclusion, in other words, if they don't say, oh yeah, you know what, this is what we're going to do, it will basically collapse, and people will start over, and the monies will be just doled out to you, so your pension or what you thought you were going to receive is not really there. And cutting retirees' pensions, believe it or not, has generally been illegal except under the most dire circumstances until this new law. Signed by your president, who's supposed to be protecting unions, passed by your Congress, who's supposed to be protecting big business, They signed that deal, and they got, I don't know, they basically bought themselves some time. So I believe that what you're seeing down the road is a couple of things happening. I'm gonna break into what I see as the issue here in just a second. But Jeff, we've been talking about this for years.
We have, and part of the problem is, as in with any other large bucket of dollars that's supposed to support a group of individuals for their lifetime, nobody knows when they're going to die. And some people are living longer than they've ever seen people live nowadays. Now we think, oh gosh, we're all living longer. That's greater. We're a healthier nation. We're eating healthier. We're living longer. We got our healthcare thing wrangled. But what does that do? That puts a lot of pressure on the dollars that are supposed to be there. Because this entire concept of pension, Social Security, whatever have you, means when it first started, 30 people put in for one person taking out, or 4 people taking out, right? And we always had that number working in favor of that concept. But now the converse is true. We're seeing less people putting in, people taking that are supposed to be managing these buckets of dollars, taking risk, losing money in the market, and more people are taking out because they're living longer. I mean, the math has been against us for a very long time. But here's the crazy part, is that this was inevitable. And in order to avoid insolvency, what has to be done? Well, some people have to be, someone has to break the bad news to someone. Because at the end of the day, they're going to run out of money if they keep paying out at the percentages they're paying out. So what do we do? Well, I guess they just have to say, when do we bite the bullet? And now is the time, because they're starting to see the brick wall coming.
$3.46. That's what they're paying out right now in pension benefits to retirees for every dollar that it received in employer contributions.
Yikes.
That's basically a 350% increase. So what you're doing is they send in $1, the new worker, the workers that are working now, 25, 35, 45-year-old worker, and the retiree that might be 65 is taking out $3.50. So that means that there has to be significant earnings. So that means that dollar has to make a lot of money. Well, it's not going to make that much. So then they dip into the principal or the bucket of dollars until slowly that amount of dollars start to shrink. So here's what will most likely happen, and you've heard me say this forever, that they're going to reduce benefits and increase taxes, or in this particular case, increase the membership dues and the dollars that are for the ones that are still working, and they're going to have to decrease the benefits. So basically, the attorneys, if you will, or of course, who never lose in this organizational structure, of any structure, say, let us tap the brakes a little bit. In order to avoid insolvency, says Thomas Nyhan. He's the one of the executive directors, one of the attorneys, if you will, involved. Gentleman trying to figure it all out, help, if you will, protect the workers by saying, we're going to reduce what we're expecting to pay you. Well, that's nice. If it works. Here's the problem. Nobody wants to take less money. Everybody wants to think that they're going to receive, or they should receive, or they better receive more money. And that's a very difficult thing to do, because the employers are not going to want to put in more money, and the employees don't want to take less pay. So who will decide this? Usually it's going to be a judge and a committee of people who will sit down and at the end come up with a plan that is going to hurt everybody a little bit or a lot.
And does that committee receive their income from that same bucket that's being
Usually they do, in
reduced?
fact.
Oh, interesting.
There's about 407,000 members of this particular union, and they're ultimately going to vote on it. There's the Treasury Department, believe it or not, is involved, because the union for years ago had some allegations of investing in organized crime. So they were forbidden of taking your union dues and investing it in particular places. So they had to make some adjustments to that. So the Treasury Department got involved. This is probably 30 years ago. And today, they're still involved. So active workers will continue to accrue benefits. For example, the pension fund could last more than 50 years or more, as long as their plan comes out, which is simple. You're going to take less money if you are a retiree who is recently retired and under the age of 70. You're going to get hit pretty significantly. So if you're 65, 68, then your number is going to be pretty significant, even if you've been retired for 15 years. If you're older than age 70, they're expecting your pensions to be infected, but not as much. You've heard us talk about this. I want to give you solutions towards the end of the hour, the second half of the show here today. But I do want you to pay attention to the fact that this is an enormous organization, huge money coming through there, big dollars. This is not a small bucket of dollars. Thousands and hundreds of millions of dollars are in this. And you're going to have to figure out here, where will you be retiring? How will you be retiring? What expenses are you going to take with you from your working years when you could work overtime and you had extra dollars? What expenses are you going to take through that and into retirement and be there available? So today you're retired, poof, you still have a house mortgage. Maybe it's right to keep a house mortgage. Maybe you should have it paid off before you retire. It will depend. For a lot of people, this is a pretty scary time. Both types of people and pensions, if you will, are insured by the federal government, the ones that are for smaller companies and for larger companies. But believe it or not, no more than $12,870 per year are actually protected by the Pension Guaranteed Corporation. I believe it's called the PBGC. Yeah. Pension Benefit Guaranteed Corporation, right? So that means you're going to receive something no matter what. Everybody paid premiums, they paid dues back to this, like the FDIC. The FDIC is a little more than an insurance company where all the member banks put money in. So if one bank over here fails, the bucket of dollars, if you will, an insurance company pays those people back their deposits. Well, that's similar to a Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, where every pension that is a part of it pays in premiums, puts those dollars in an account, and it guarantees, in this particular case, $12,870. But compared to around $54,000 received in a pension, that gap is huge. That's night and day. That's from poverty to a reasonable vacation every other month. So many Teamsters have earned pensions that exceed the multi-employer insurance limit, and they're going to be hit hard if this fund fails. So we'd expect them to come to some sort of agreement. Overall, there's going to be some sort of communication if there hasn't already. If you're part of this union, you know that. You're getting letters that says, hey, heads up, we're expecting this to happen. The biggest or the most latest reform was the Multi-Employer Pension Reform Act of 2014. And it set up a framework for distressed pension plans and their ability to restructure. So you heard me at the beginning of the hour talk about under this new law, that's the new law. It said, we know that pensions could either go out of business completely, or we can let them restructure themselves, renegotiate, settle down, make some changes, things like that.
And what's interesting is you're starting to see the writing on the wall. You have one of the largest pension funds in the country exercising this and now going through this restructuring. Do you think no one else is going to follow suit? Look how many underfunded pensions are out there. There's a whole boatload of them. You can find them online. And some of the largest, I mean, look at State Teachers Retirement Fund, PERS. We have a whole bunch of different funds out there. But what I thought was interesting in this article is, Arif, you're talking about having, this with this reform and this restructure, they're hoping to get another 50 years out of this pension fund with these moves they're making. But they were looking at a 10 to a 15 year wall that they're going to hit with insolvency. So picture in 10 years or 15 years, they were set to hit a brick wall and have to do something really drastic. But now a 50-year horizon is what they're looking at. That's a big difference. So do we think it's going to be a few dollars a month or a few dollars a year? No, I think they're going to have to make some major cutbacks.
Here it is.
When it comes to that payout.
Yeah. Retirees who are 80 years or older will not have their pensions cut. Those that are 75, I said 70 earlier, it's actually 75, will receive smaller cuts than younger retirees. If you have a disability pension, you can expect it to be paid in full. A group of about 48,000 workers and retirees who earn benefits by working at UPS, for example, will continue to have their pensions paid in full, and that's thanks to labor contracts between the Teamsters and the company. So UPS is part of that pension system. Currently under this recent negotiations, they're fine. But UPS was, for many, if you will, the year's largest employer and a huge contributor. Remember that there's a part to this that the reason it works isn't because of just because of the large bucket of dollars are there. It's also because of the new money Ponzi scheme that's coming in there, right? You've heard that Ponzi scheme, right? You use new investor money to pay for old investors that are expecting a return of their principal, maybe some interest. Well, a lot of these pension systems, look, a Ponzi scheme is an illegal thing, and union pensions are not that way, and government pensions are not illegal, etc. But you do have to wonder and scratch your head a little bit and say, is there some similarity that the only reason that this can exist isn't because there's enough money there that will invest in assets and in things that will create money for me so that I could retire and expect a paycheck? But instead, it's also counting on the new workers that are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, continually working, the economy growing, people working overtime, which means a greater percentage of their check is taken into this bucket. And right, it's this pyramid effect where if one of those little stones pulls out, the whole thing can come collapsing down.
It's like Jenga.
There it is.
And the crazy part is, had they done something, maybe where they check in maybe every year is too much, but every 5 years or every 10 years and start to reevaluate, what is our projected longevity in this plan? And everybody comes into these types of programs, and this is one of the major benefits. A pension is a huge benefit that someone seeks when they're looking for at a prospect employer. And if they're dangling that really attractive carrot, you have to wonder how long they're going to be able to do that. And so that's part of the problem, is that they never checked in, it seems like, and recalculated some of those payouts, and now they have to do it for everybody versus just the new people coming in.
Here's the big problem, folks. The group that seems exposed to the largest pension cuts consists of about 43,400, quote, orphans or retirees still in the pension fund, even though their former employers no longer exist. They retired, etc. So their pensions will be cut to 110% of what they would receive from that insurance plan, if you will, or at most $14,158. So if you were receiving $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year in pensions, not unheard of, normal.
Yeah.
The most you can expect now is somewhere around $14,158. That's a problem, guys. That's a huge problem. Active workers will not lose any of the benefits they've accrued up to this point, but moving forward, instead of getting 1 for 1, probably 1% or 1 year worked, they're now going to get, for every one is going to be 0.75. So they will take a 25% reduction going forward.
Sheesh.
That means if you used to make $4,000 a month, you now make $3,000. Can you not understand that this is going to change your life? It will force you to, in my opinion, need safer, guaranteed income choices away from government pension, company pensions, where you are tied to some mystical number of who knows what. It's going to force you to have to create a kind of a lookout for yourself. That's what Total Financial Solutions does. That's what we do. If you want us to help you, great. You can always go to our 800 number or come, we have we're local here in Newhall, 753-9683. That's our local number. You can also go to our office in Lancaster. We have an office in Lancaster and one in Newhall. Both of those are open and convenient to whenever it works for you. This is important because the restructuring will also abolish a rule that bars pensioners from returning to the workforce. Oh. So if you have just retired and your pension is cut significantly, you're the one that can be affected the most. They're going to allow you to still collect your pension and go back to work. So if you're a new employee, you might end up losing your job because the guy with all the experience who was forbidden to come back to work will now come back to work. And because there's only one job for two people, that person loses their job. So the new guy loses his job. And the old guy, if you will, I say that, tongue in cheek, but has the relationships, has the experience, knows the system, the companies, the processes a lot better than the person who's newer. So guess who's going to be let go? most likely it's going to be the new person. We'll come back in just a minute as we continue to talk about solutions to the pension crisis. We just brought up one. Pensions that are affected across the board. We've talked about United Airlines. We've talked about numerous and countless pensions all across the board. How do you protect your family? We have that solution. That Total Financial Solutions, that's us. That's the Safer Money Hour. That's what we're all about. Protecting your assets, reducing some of the risk, maybe even eliminating fees. That's what your retirement accounts need. We're here for you. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard on your place for News Talk and Information. AM 1220, KHTS.